Israel was against the Iraq war. I know because I spoke to Prime Minister Sharon. He spoke to President Bush and urged him not to go into Iraq.
With this conspiratorial idiocy, including, as we just saw, the idea that it was Israel that forced the original Iraq war, an idea totally and utterly unsupportable by any evidence, given the fact that the actual Prime Minister of Israel at the time, Ariel Sharon, opposed the Iraq war.
Okay, so pause it here. So Ben Shapiro is going to say there's no evidence to support the claim that Israel pulled us into the Iraq war. And you go, well, look, I mean, as everybody knows, Benjamin Netanyahu is the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history, including the current prime minister that's conducting this war we're talking about with us right now, okay? And everybody knows that he testified before Congress a few weeks before the vote on the authorization of military force in Iraq that we should go overthrow Saddam Hussein, and guaranteed positive reverberations would sweep the region.
Now, I don't mean to suggest for a moment that the questions raised here and other questions are not relevant. That is, that there aren't legitimate questions about a potential operation against Iraq. Indeed, there are. But the question of whether removing Saddam's regime is itself legitimate is not one of them. And equally immaterial in my mind is the argument that America cannot oust Saddam without prior approval of the international community. Because this is a ruler who is rapidly expanding his arsenal of biological and chemical weapons. This is a dictator who has used these weapons of mass destruction against his subjects and his neighbors. The dangers posed by a nuclear-armed Saddam were understood by my country 2 decades ago, well before September 11th. In 1981, the late Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, dispatched the Israeli Air Force on a pre-dawn raid that destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor at Osirak. This probably took place months away from Saddam's ability to assemble the critical mass of plutonium for the first atomic bomb, or more than one. Israel acted because we understood, that a nuclear-armed Saddam would place our very survival at risk. And today the United States must destroy the same regime because a nuclear-armed Saddam will place the security of our entire world at risk. 2 decades ago, it was possible to thwart Saddam's nuclear ambitions by bombing a single installation. But today, nothing less than dismantling his regime will do. Nothing less than dismantling his regime will do.
Like, just that alone, you can't say there's no evidence that there was any Israeli connection. Just because you got him, like, you're saying he wasn't the prime minister at the time. He only had done 1 term and then went on to be the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history. That's still, like, I don't know, Rob, kind of connected to the government of Israel. And as I've mentioned many times before, he also wrote an op-ed in, it was in the Wall Street Journal that year, I believe. He wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Perez wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post, and Ehud Barak wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, all saying the same exact thing. Overthrow Saddam Hussein, positive reverberations, WMDs, all of this shit. And then also the one point he has about Sharon, which you guys can go back and look this up. I got to double check this note, but you can find it for me. I believe it was in the summer of 2002, but I might be off by a month or two. But go listen to Sharon's speech in the Knesset. Because he had totally gotten on board with the war in Iraq. What happened was at the very beginning, after 9/11, when they first started hearing rumors that we were going to go into Iraq, Sharon and his branch of then Likud, they later split from Likud, but his branch, they were like, no, you shouldn't overthrow Saddam Hussein. You should do the Ayatollah first. That was their thing. They're like, you overthrow Saddam Hussein, or, the Ayatollah is going to take over too much power now. You got to do that first. And then he basically got assurances that Iran was coming next. And so he got on board and he supported the whole thing. But what Ben Shapiro will tell you, so all that shit is true, okay? All that I just said is true. And what Ben Shapiro tells you out of that is there's no evidence because Sharon was against it. Tell me if you think that's honest. Is that's honest to say that somehow is evidence against it? One prime minister being against it, that's proof. But then having 3 prime ministers who were for it, and the fact that Sharon turned around and then supported the whole thing, that's also not evidence? Like, and by the way, this is not secretly. He didn't secretly turn around and support it. And that whole year leading up to it, Mossad and Sharon's government put out all types of fake intelligence about weapons of mass destruction and all that shit. So it's just total lie, total dishonesty.